yes, the relationship between the current mayor and the superintendent, I'll just quote what he said in a public forum, which was, I think he used the word terrible, was the word I believe he used. So that, to me, is unacceptable. I will partner with the superintendent. I've met with the superintendent several times, as many of us have, and so yes, that's going to be happening. But we're going to work with the corporate and philanthropic community to get early childhood learning into place from birth to age 3, as well as many other initiatives to partner with the school system.
Keisha.
I wish that I'd had the luxury of only talking about the education issue in our city for the last 18 months. I have 4 children, and I am in a school cluster that is not at the top of our most successful clusters in this city. Nelson Mandela said education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world, and that still remains true. With my 4 school-age children, they all learn very differently. And I'm very grateful to be able to have the resources to help them learn and thrive in the way that they learn. But really, it's about making sure that all of our children have those same resources. If we are not paying attention to what's happening to our city, we are not paying attention to what will happen to our future. I'm a graduate of Frederick Douglass High School, APS graduate, and I know what happens when you have a solid education and what's possible in this city. Like me, you can be the daughter of a single mother and you can go on to become a judge and you can run for mayor. There are plenty of opportunities available, but we've got to start with our education system.
Let's go right down the line with people who haven't had a chance to respond. John?
Once again, they have it wrong. The answer is the Harlem Children's Zone concept. President Obama adopted it and called it Promise Zones. They look at child development like a conveyor belt of development from 0 all the way to 22. 0 to 4, 5 to 8, 8 to 13. Every step along the way, there is a triage done with county, city, state, and federal resources to support the development of the child along the way. You've heard various answers up here. One thing that no one has ever talked about that is crucial is not 0 to 3, 0 to 4, it's the prenatal stage, when the mother is carrying the child. And this is where Grady Hospital can play a role in terms of proper education, and every child that's born in Grady Hospital should get some sort of package, the mother, in terms of how she can care for the child for the balance of his childhood.
Thank you.
I have to say I do agree with that piece, but you know, it's not as easy as it sounds. Every child deserves a great neighborhood school. I'm a former school board member, so I've seen the other side of the fence. Relationships really do matter in this, and there have been difficult and strained relationships on all sides when you think about the people on this platform as well as the mayor and the superintendent. So it's easy for people to say, oh yeah, we're just going to work it out, we're going to be partners. That doesn't always happen. So the reality is you have to work within the bounds of what you actually have in your hands. As mayor, there are a lot of things you can do outside of the school time where you can support families and children, as I've done in a place-based manner in the Yo Boulevard initiative. So that's really what it's like at Promise, or very similar to the Harlem Children's Zone. Those types of ideas are really going to be the place where the city can actually measure what it can do, and we've done that in the Old Fourth Ward. Thank you.
You know, if we don't work hard and partner together with respect to education, we're not going to be the great city that we want to be. I'm a product of the Atlanta public school system. I went to Benjamin E. Mays High School. My grandmother was a public school teacher right here in this city. My mother was an Atlanta public schools teacher. My wife right now is over at Inman Middle School, where she teaches 6th grade language arts. There's no one on this panel that's done more work over the last 15 years in education than I. I've had for 12 years this program called the College Prep Series, which is a partnership with APS. So I'm not just talking about a partnership, I've been about a partnership with APS. These young folks who've come, almost 7,000 young people, have been able to get one step closer with their parents to go into college and to career. I was standing up when no one else was talking about making sure that we respected as a city APS with respect to the Beltline, and I provided leadership in getting that done. When I am mayor, there's going to be no space between APS and the city of Atlanta. We're going to have strong after-school programs in partnership with APS to get our young people ready for college and career, and I want every young person, I see your hand, Bill, I want every young person, when they graduate, to have the option of graduating with a high school diploma and an associate's degree so they can be ready for the future.
Thank you, Caesar.
Thank you.
Has everybody gone? I didn't think, no, let's go right now. Kathy?
Thanks for the question, Bill, and I hope you'll ask a further question of each of the candidates to make sure that we've all been attended Atlanta public schools as we grew up, and our children have. Everyone in my family has gone to public schools, and I'm a real supporter because my dad was in the Air Force, and we dropped in on schools throughout my life. And so it's important to me to think that any kid in Atlanta can go to any school in Atlanta and get a good education.
Well, let me ask you then, is there a candidate up here who you are uncomfortable, doesn't understand the public school system because they haven't participated themselves or their family has participated?
Well, I just think you should ask the question about who's committed to Atlanta Public Schools and have their children attend those schools, and did they attend public schools? Because I think it's an important distinction about people's experience growing up. What I will also say is when I got involved in this race 2 years ago, the first thing I did was call Maria Karstoff and said, I want to have a relationship with you. She said, what's the hurry? The election's a little while off. And I said, because we've got work to do together and I want to make sure we know each other. And that's about building healthy communities, for the mayor to build healthy communities around schools that are not being successful. You know, the Atlanta Beltline connects many of our schools in the city so that kids can walk to school and ride their bikes safely. And that's a new thing for the city of Atlanta. And to the extent that we can help kids begin developing healthy exercise habits, I think that's important. To the extent that we can create safe, affordable housing all over the city, including in neighborhoods where schools are failing, is an important contribution that we can make for the city of Atlanta. That our rec centers can add sports, literacy, and clubs, and that we expand our arts and culture programs so that every kid in Atlanta gets a chance to experience theater and arts and cultural activities.
Thanks, Kathy.
I answered the question, Bill, but I'd be happy
Oh,
to
you
talk
did?
some more.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'd be happy to take
apologize.
some extra time to talk, though.
Kathy, I take your point. I will certainly let people who are here attending today ask the candidates as they leave whether their families are part of APS or whether they're in private schools. And I think it's, I appreciate what you're asking.
Quick
But-
show of hands, which candidates attended public schools?
Well,
Atlanta Public Schools, President of Mays High School.
Whose children?
My children went to Atlanta Public
all right,
Schools.
all right.
I think that matters, Bill.
Do you have children, Kathy?
I do not.
Okay.
But if I did, they'd go to public school.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Want to talk about, it's a little hard for me to have children, but
The
you know.
point has been made. How many of you have attended or been in public schools? Doesn't matter if it's Atlanta or not, really.
First, this is a good question. It should be asked.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, let's
I
go
do too.
let's go
Let's
through
ask
and
it,
answer the
yeah.
question so that let's just go left to
just
right,
go
right
down
to
the
left,
line.
and answer
Go
the
down the
question.
All right, Peter, real quick,
down the
go
line.
down
Go.
the line.
Yeah, so let's just go down the line.
Go ahead.
So I attended public schools. I was proud that my mom ultimately ran for and was on the board of the public school system that I attended. When I moved to this area and my wife and I had children, and it was time for us to pick schools, because of some unique learning differences of our kids, we did not choose to attend Atlanta Public Schools. But I am making education such a priority because everybody should have a right and an ability to attend as good a school as
Thanks.
possible.
I appreciate your illuminating us. I really do.
That's what I'm here for.
Keisha?
As I mentioned, I am a proud graduate of Frederick
Right.
Douglass High
Right,
School.
and you have 4.
I have 4 children.
Oh, my. And they're all in.
My children do not attend Atlanta Public Schools. As I mentioned, my school cluster is
Right.
not a successful school cluster, and I'm very grateful to be
Okay.
able to provide them with a fantastic education.
I get you, John.
No, it's a good question because there's a whole lot of hypocrisy
That's why we're
up
asking you.
here.
What's your-
really? I'm a proponent of public education. My children, my son graduated from Mays High School. My daughter's a senior at Mays High School. I'm a strong supporter of public education. I believe it, and I also have a PhD in education administration.
Kwanzaa?
Yes. I went through Atlanta Public Schools, as well as my children went to Atlanta Public Schools or DeKalb County.
Caesar, I think you've already
Yeah,
said.
I'm a product of the public school system. My family is very invested in APS. I have 3 children. One is a 17-week-old boy, one is a 5-year-old preschooler, and my 6-year-old's in 1st grade in APS.
All right, Mary?
I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, so I did not attend the public schools in Atlanta. My stepdaughters.
Did you attend public school in Augusta
I did
or
not.
private school?
I attended a Roman Catholic
Oh,
school.
okay, okay.
where the nuns really made you behave and learn. My stepdaughters, one attended North Atlanta, the other attended Westminster.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't grow up in Atlanta either. I grew up in Beaumont, Texas. My life actually started in an orphanage, at the Lutheran Social Services orphanage. So I didn't have the good fortune of growing up in Atlanta. We had a governor that said if everybody could choose the circumstances of their birth, they'd be born rich, lucky, handsome, and with a trust fund. And so I didn't have that opportunity. But I did go to public schools my entire life, and I don't have any children. But I am a strong proponent. I've helped hundreds and thousands of kids in our city get summer job
But
opportunities.
if you did, they'd go to APS.
Oh,
wouldn't they?
absolutely, absolutely. Because if I'm married, every APS school will provide opportunities.
Thank you. Kathy, I hope we've, I think it was a fair question,
Thank
and
you.
I appreciate you bringing it up. Alexis, we're really running out of time.
Absolutely. So, what we're going to do now is begin our closing statements that you might want to have and hopefully make them relevant to health and the focus of the day.
Could I point something out as they start their statements? Because maybe they're even more important today than a week ago, because early voting began in Atlanta yesterday. So all the people here who are registered voters in Atlanta can hear the whole debate and then the closing statements and go right to the polls.
Or they can hang around and go to your next forum, which is later on today.
Well, I meant after this. I meant after this.
All right. Well, let's
Peter is
we'll
on.
start with Peter then.
Certainly. Thank you again all for attending. My name is Peter Amon, and I would like to earn your vote to be the 60th mayor of Atlanta. I'm the only candidate on the stage that has the unique combination of experience, having run the city of Atlanta, the experience of having worked in the private sector. I'm the only candidate on the stage that has the experience of holding people to the highest ethical standards in both the private sector and in the city of Atlanta when I was chief operating officer. I'm the only candidate on the stage that has the leadership, the demonstrated leadership, and a track record of bringing together the neighborhoods and the community with the nonprofit sector, with the government, and with the private sector to make things happen. Whether it was the founding of the Atlanta Police Foundation that created the At Promise Youth Center that was referenced, or working to help found and be the founding board chair of Partners for Home, an organization that helps coordinate the homeless services in the city of Atlanta, which I helped found. Again, thank you for your time. I'm Peter Amon.
Thank you, Peter. We've been asked by the authority to do this in alphabetical order as you were introduced, so understand there is a reason behind my calling next on John Eves.
Once again, I'm John Eves. Friends, this election is about leadership and integrity. Leadership, demonstrated results. You heard a lot of talk here tonight. I'm talking about demonstrated results. Number one, saved Grady Hospital in 2008, 2009 as a result of my leadership. Number two, did the most massive criminal justice reform in the history of Fulton County under my leadership. Did 2 expungement summits. Created the outsourcing of mental health in our community under my watch. Reconfigured the health department under my watch. Established a sex trafficking task force under my watch. Created a HIV task force under my watch. Did all of that in terms of change and having a positive impact on the health outcomes of citizens in the city of Atlanta. You need that type of person who is a demonstrated leader to be mayor of the city of Atlanta, but above all, not just the results, but integrity, which is lacking right now in City Hall.
Okay. The next person is Kwanzaa Hall.
Thank you. Relationships really do matter. So to do things in your own shop but not be able to connect with others is a travesty. And I've said this in many, many cases to people on the trail. Atlanta doesn't need a white mayor, a black mayor, a gay mayor, or a straight mayor. Atlanta needs a great mayor, a mayor who'll put people and neighborhoods first. We've been great at building buildings, but not so good at loving our people. And integral to that is the work that you all do. And that's the health-related things, preventing our citizens from not really having the outcomes in their lives as they deserve. I'm Kwanzaa Hall, and I'll be everybody's mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwanzaa. Keisha Lance Bottoms, you're next.
Thank you. I've talked about my 4 children, and they are the 4 reasons that I am running for mayor: Lance, Langston, Lennox, and Lincoln. And I was a few minutes late this morning because Lennox was having an asthma attack. And I was very happy to have prednisone on hand and albuterol on hand. And that's the luxury that many of us have in this city. But so many of us don't have the resources and access to good health care. And so my reason for running for mayor really is about making sure that all of our children and all of our families have the access that they need to succeed and thrive. I believe that this city is full of opportunities and also challenges. But as mayor, I am committed to making sure that I bridge the gap between the two. I am a product and an example of what is possible in this city, and I hope that you will join me in leaving no community behind.
Thank you, Keisha. Cesar Mitchell.
Yes, this campaign and really the future of our city is about setting the right tone of leadership. And as mayor, I'm going to set the tone of leadership from the top. A tone of collaboration, the tone of working together with our partners, making sure that we are addressing the critical issues facing this city. My father passed away about 2 days before my 10th birthday from an illness that could have been prevented. So when I'm mayor, I'm going to make sure we're working with Fulton County. We're working with the hospital authority to address critical health issues in this city. I'm going to make sure we're addressing one of the most critical public health issues in this city, which is crime. I'm going to make sure that the intersection between crime and our young people is addressed, and we're going to make sure that our young people have every opportunity to succeed. Atlanta was a village when I was growing up, and that village is why I'm able to stand here and say I want to serve as your next mayor. Leadership starts at the top. And leadership is not just about saying you're standing out front, beating your chest, saying I'm the one. Leadership is about a spirit of service and a spirit of getting things done with others. I'm Cesar Mitchell, and I want to serve as your next mayor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Cesar. Mary Norwood.
Yes, I want to let you all know how essential Grady is to this city, this region, and this state. Your role is one of the most important we have. I have a husband who is a pediatrician in Atlanta for 40 years. His daughter is now a pediatrician at Piedmont. They both attended Emory University Medical School, and they both did their training at Grady. And it was an important factor for both of them to have that training at Grady because they know how much good work you do. When we have a health desert in our city and people can't get across town and people can't get to your facility and others, the mayor has to address that straight on. I will have a health czar who will be in my cabinet, who will be working with you and all other health providers to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep our citizens healthy as well as safe. I'm Mary Norwood.
Thank you, Mary Norwood. Michael.
Yep. My name is Michael Sterling, and as I look around the room and see the reactions of everyone, I can almost sense the frustration. You've been looking at the same names on ballots over the same 8, 12, and 16 years, and folks have been making promises and telling you this time it's going to be different. And what do we have in the city of Atlanta? We've got the worst income inequality in the country. We've got one of the worst rates of economic mobility. Last year, the city of Atlanta had a worse murder per capita rate than the city of Chicago, mostly due to gun violence. We've got an AIDS epidemic. And so folks get up here and they tell you about leadership matters and they tell you about different things, and you've been voting for them time and time again, and nothing has seemed to change. But this time can be different. This time we can do something new and something fresh. We can offer new leadership for a new direction for our city. This time we can end the political status quo and actually do something that's going to make a meaningful change in the city of Atlanta. We can vote for Michael Sterling. Early voting has started, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
And we conclude with you, Kathy Willard.
Thanks so much. So I'm running because I'm fighting for ATL. If you take nothing away from this, remember, I'm working for affordability, transportation, and livability. Since the beginning of my career, I've been an advocate and working with many of you since the 80s, working on initial Ryan White funding, initial HOPWA programs in Washington, D.C., working here for Medicaid expansion, working here, leading the charge for needle exchange and HIV decriminalization. I've been the lobbyist for Planned Parenthood for over a decade. I know the issues that you care about, and so you don't have to come to City Hall to educate me on how I can be an advocate, because I know who you are and I know how I can help, and we can work together to change the city. I thought we could live in a different way in Atlanta by creating the Atlanta Beltline so people had safe routes to school, so that we could have clean air and have transit to get us there. I've worked on brownfields reclamation. The Atlanta Beltline was named the best environmental reclamation project in the world. We need clean water. As Keisha said, we've got some of the dirtiest air in the country and the highest rates of childhood asthma. We can change that. I want to use Invest Atlanta to end food deserts and make sure everyone lives near a grocery store with fresh food.
All right.
And we'll have a smoke-free city and a smoke-free airport. There's no accommodating smokers in Atlanta, Georgia when I'm mayor.
All right.
Wow. We have, it's, Alexis, this has been said over and over again. This is a really good field of candidates.
Strong field of candidates.
Yeah.
And we want to thank all of you for being so faithful and dedicated to this task. And it's going to be a challenge for all of us to make a selection. So let's give everybody a round of applause. This concludes our program.
Yeah, I think
Thank you
someone.
very much.
Oh, yeah. I guess we can let the candidates.
You want us to leave now, is that what you're
exit.
saying?
Get off the stage, please. Thank you. And I think you're going to hear about next steps right now, right?
For the-
Thank you, candidates.
Thank you again.